You have a few spare hours. I'd love to share the details of how this device is a masterpiece of design. Quadruple independent gearboxes enabling 0 to 20 in under 4 seconds. 10 kilometers of internal wiring. 1,100 expertly machined hand-assembled components. Flawless control at over 300 meters. But all my team needs to know is, does it do the job or doesn't it? And let me tell you right now, it does the job.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all to the semifinals of the Talent League Titan Series. Today we have an extremely spicy matchup and one that I'm very excited to bring to y'all. It is Heroic versus TT9. Obviously, I am the host Jaeger, joined today by our lovely caster, Reappearance. Reappearance, how are you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Had a good and had a good day yesterday. I think a lot of fun casting yesterday. What a roller coaster that game was! And so after that showdown between B and MYD, I'm of course excited to see who else is going to make it to the finals. And like you mentioned, big matchup, very important game. We've got TT9 and Heroic, the two invited, pro league teams that we've got, the big caliber teams that we have. That I think we would expect to go this far, and the only reason we wouldn't expect to see both of them in the finals is if they were to clash earlier in the bracket, which is exactly what we see here. And so they meet in the semifinals, and we're curious to find out which of these two teams is going to go to the finals, and even more importantly, which of these guys is Cream Heroic and which of these guys is Heroic Cream.
Oh my god. Okay. So chat, everyone's watching. So basically Kayak and Skiddy are called Cream.Heroic and Heroic.Cream separately. And for the past 5 minutes, everyone in production talent, we've been going crazy because we don't know which is which until we finally had our lovely producer, I'm sorry, not producer, observer Nanos ask in game, and Kendra replied. So thank you, Kendra. You saved a lot of headache here. But speaking of that, I mean, this is an insane game, isn't it, Reappearance? I mean, people think that the winner of this game will go on to win the entire tournament because these are the two T1 Titan teams. Because obviously in the other bracket, Make Your Destiny have been very strong, as well as BEE. They've shown really good things. If you remember back a few days ago to the original quarterfinals, both of those teams put on really good performances. But I mean, general bias suggests that whoever wins this game will go on to win the entire tournament, won't it?
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of an obvious prediction to go for one of the T1 teams in a T4 league to be winning it outright. But
What?
you absolutely mind blowing, I know, but you can't be underestimating the other teams participating here because although Heroic and TT9 have both looked very dominant, it's not like they're invulnerable. We have seen, gods bleed every now and then. TT9 have gone to overtime multiple times, especially TT9 has been struggling with just going through different rosters and seeing what works for them and what doesn't. And they have had different lineups going into some of these group games. And so, yes, they made it here, and they're going to go up against Heroic, and Heroic arguably with a more consistent roster. So the question is, right now, does TT9 have a fighting chance with how many changes they've been making, with how inconsistent they've been simply with their roster appearance? I mean, their overall performance, a little bit shaky, but they have been able to close out every game so far. They haven't lost. But 2 overtimes compared to the one from Heroic is certainly something that at least statistically puts them on the back foot.
Hmm. All right, Reappearance, lovely analyst, but I think all our players are ready. But just before we give it to them, I just want to ask you, who do you think is coming out on top? I have to know. Uh,
For this very map for Bank, I would say Heroic because I think they really like this map. You can't underestimate TT9. I definitely think that these teams are somewhat on even grounds. I would give a slight edge to Heroic, so I would maybe say 2-1 Heroic. Heroic take this one though.
2-1 Heroic. I mean, that's exactly my prediction. I mean, not to copy you or anything, but I was going to say 2-1 Heroic as well. They have looked very much more solid, obviously, like you had mentioned, with the solid lineup. And I just think overall, they just seem to be a bit more cohesive in their nature. So anyways, that's going to be all from us at the starting desk. I'm going to give it away to our lovely casters here to take it away. Puffer Bob and Inferno. It's all yours, buddies.
Thank you very much for the wonderful intro and the absolutely spectacular hosting. We've got ourselves a huge matchup ahead of us here, Bob. I'm super excited to get this one going underway. A bit of a rematch from a couple months prior for the Gamers Without Borders Open Qualifier 2, where Heroic did in fact take the victory over TT9. So we'll have to see if that repeats here, if that scoreline does go as our analyst and host said in a 2-1, or if Heroic just managed to take this 2-0. It'd be pretty surprising to see it go the other way, but like I said, you cannot underestimate anybody. Anything can happen, and this is the place for it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, but this could be considered a bit of a clash of titans, as I mean, both of these teams are still very strong. You know, being cocky against the other just because you may have had a bit of a better performance throughout the entire season could be kind of digging your own grave. So, yeah, I mean, it's still Bank, like mentioned from the analyst and the host. This is a bit more of a heroic based or a bit more of a comfortable map for them. So we could be looking, I'm not going to say a 7-0, most definitely, because TT9, they're still very strong. They still have much to put up, but I'm saying I'm still going to join up with them and say heroic will be taking up for this one. For the other maps, I'm not quite sure, since, I mean, yet again, TT9's performance yesterday was just mind-boggling. They absolutely destroyed the opposing team. Even started to play with their food. I mean, they pulled out the iron sight, started rushing with blitz, and they still managed to get a very nice score out of it. So I'm thinking it's going to be very close.
They've got that pro player mentality. They got that pro player confidence. And once you got to face off against a pro, they expect them to kind of key it in just a little bit. It's not for all the marbles, so to say, but it is expected. The team that takes this will likely take themselves the victor overall here for the league. I think that's, I don't think that's far fetched to go ahead and say out there. It's the T1 pro teams. You're kind of expecting them to take all the marbles, so to say, however many or little that marble may be. But I will point out Heroic has faced on Bank previously here for the league. In fact, their first game on broadcast, and I casted that with Jess, they were in Bank and they had a bit of a tough time. They actually had a couple rounds lost. They had a couple that they should have lost, and it didn't happen to go their way. They had really good comebacks in the end, but of course they weren't trying as hard as they necessarily could have. Like you mentioned before, they play with their food. They have that pro player mentality, and that's got to be completely snipped in the bud here. They cannot have that mentality against another pro team. And I think if we're going to have as entertaining a match as possible here in the league, it's right here in the semifinals of all things. Who even cares about the grand finals at the end of the day? The semis are where the real action's getting underway.
Yeah, I mean, although in the grand finals they are going to be matching up against Maker Destiny, which on its own have been performing quite well, but they're not a T1 team. That's what makes
the rematch.
So, yeah, I mean, this could be considered almost like the grand finals, but we don't know. If they underestimate the opposing team in the grand finals a bit too much, we could be seeing a bit of a surprising outcome. As we head into Bank, we're going to be going over to the bands. Now, this is a pretty huge map, so I'm just going to say it off the top of my head. I'm expecting either Zami or Solus pretty much off the start. Probably one of the necessities to kind of get these really strong operators off. And then for the attacking side, I'm just going to go with a quick Hibana or Ace. I feel like with the range they have and the protection they get from those breaches, and just with the importance of hatches and breaching in general, it's going to be a Sledge, which, can you lead me a bit on that? Why do you think Sledge would be so important?
You do have to worry about the top-down approach when it comes to this map. A little bit less so when it comes towards the basement in general, as there's less floorboards you necessarily have to be concerned about. Mostly just the hatches. But playing on the second floor when you're playing your open square, playing the second floor when you're playing inside just open in general, you have to worry about the top-down approach. If you step up in towards tail, you step up towards stock, you try to work in on the second floor hallway whatsoever, Sledge is going to tear apart the floorboards. The issue is you're choosing to ban the Sledge, the buck's just going to be picked up elsewhere. Even Ashes with breaching rounds will be picked up. But Sledge's importance for the ban comes not just from the hammer in the back pocket, but the nades they hold as well. And it's a double ban for nades, as Nook will be the second attacker ban. Solus, you're pretty much guaranteed at any map, but there are 4 needed to be banned defenders. Same thing cannot be said for the attack, and you got 2 out of the 4 you have to pick from, and they chose Solus and Valkyrie.
Yeah, Valkyrie also quite a decent pick. Like we said, huge map, hard to find these scams, and without an IQ, it's going to be even more difficult with the amount of spots you have up in your loadout. Now, with Valkyrie, it's as well, you know, the amount of intel you can gain from these huge areas. It's not like it's all filled with hallways and small rooms. The rooms are extended pretty large in themselves. Same goes with the hallways. So you just get a lot of intel and view with just a camera alone. Now, talking about the names, we're still going to have Yana come in just a bit of it as a backup since we don't have the Sledge and the Nook anymore. And with the glass These, I could assume as well, these are pretty strong. Although smokes could be, put into consideration as it's pretty much his primary ability to go about them. I'm still expecting nades because just with the amount of frag potential you can get from them, destroying the zombie gates, zombie barriers, ruining gates, with the amount of gadgets you can take out, or even players, they're quite a deadly gadget overall. That's probably why Book had them removed quite a while ago. And yet again, if Solus isn't banned, it's going to be the zombie, vice versa. And with the zombie on the leaderboard right now, you have to get something like an Ashe to take out those barriers, because playing against them is quite difficult. I mean, they give you a lot of pixel peaks, they give you a lot of these pretty much advantageous angles that attackers are hard to play off against. So with that all in mind, I mean, it's going to be quite tough, but still, I'm wondering what the attackers are going to do. Maybe they're going to do a full roam clear, or they're just going to go straight for sight of the objective.
Four go-to ops to get rid of in the V2 phase for the defense, and you really have to pick the worst of the bunch as best as you can. I think they did a good job between these two teams. Solus, Valkyrie, Azami, and Fenrir. For a map like this, Fenrir will be a big nuisance, especially when it comes to the top floor. A little bit more so towards the basement for a lot of compositions, but I feel like they're going to play a little bit more passive and play with the hatch play instead. So Fenrir has a little bit less viability there. Overall, you just want the information about when the team is going to drop, and removing the Valkyrie and the Solus makes it very hard for the defense to gather that, which makes your attack a lot easier. And with TT9 starting on it, they've got to get their pick litter right off the rip, and they find it right in the first 30 seconds. They've already taken down one. I believe that is Skitty. No, that is actually Kayak. We'll get their names eventually by the end of this one, but taking down the smoke, which means no more toxic babes, something you would hold on to into the final 30 seconds, especially on a basement hold, where you're likely to toss those over towards security, is pivotal to the success of TT9 in the later stages of this round. And Kanta knocking down the other doppelganger Cream. That's the best way to start this one.
Yeah, not only that, but it's also amazing picks. Getting the zombie in the smoke for a late game will be a nice one. Kenju gets taken out. That's going to be the Twitch with a 417. Not a bad pick as well, but you would prefer to have a Kaptao or someone for a bit more in the late game. Now, the picks for the defense have much been better since, I mean, the man advantage is still there for the attackers, and they still have to get to their execute. Now, we do see we're not going to be seeing much hatches getting open. I mean, we still have Officer pretty much coming in, and he's going to be getting shot down by the side of Leonski. A very nice shot, didn't expect it, but was still there to finish him. Another one coming up from Mainster is going to be Joom onto Azar, and now it's making it a 3v2 situation. Man advantage is still there, but these heroic players are seemingly getting more aggressive the more players they lose. And the attackers right now, they're set up. I mean, they have the hatches. They just need to watch out for any flanks. And of course, correct utility usage from the side of the defenders. There comes the SMG-11 getting aggressive from the side of the Warden, but he's going to be backing off. You don't want to play it too safe. Just want to waste as much time as possible.
Rogues lost their Sentinels. They lost the Azami, which means no more Kiba barricades to be charged up throughout the rest of the round. They lost the Toxic Babes. They have no choice but to over-aggress to take down TT9 as early as they can and try to equalize things up in the final 30 seconds. They've done so well, and in fact, Joom will even take down yet another. This one on a Kantel, leading us into a 2v1. TT9 in a very poor spot. They're doing everything they can. A lot of damage licked out towards Blast. Joom trying to join into the fight. Blast, DB, and O. Do they know where Joom's lying in wait? They'll be in garage, but it's not going to happen. Joom connects with the SMG in the back pocket, gets the job done. And Heroic will, in fact, conclude round one in their favor, despite taking a 2-player disadvantage right off the rip at the beginning of the round.
Oh yeah, it was getting way closer than we would expect it. I mean, even at the start, Heroic was just at a man disadvantage, not only having the smoke released, but also getting the Azami getting taken out. So for endgame, it was seeming like it was all over for them, but not just completely. They came back, the shots were fired. I mean, the aggression they got on main stairs, the Warden just got distraction, and he also pushed up himself to take out one, and then of course to take out the second, dropping into hatch. Just gonna pick it off nicely. Gary with the buck now getting the final kill. Although it was getting close, it was not close enough for TT9 to finish the job they started. Now we're gonna be going onto the side of open area, which is gonna be an interesting tide to see. I mean, this one does rely a lot more on verticality, probably assuming they banned the sludge because so. And you know, I wouldn't be surprised. Or I'll say it like this, I'm crossing my fingers for every once in a while to see a bit of fuse action on this side with the amount of, plugs that can go flying around this ginormous area they have to cover. We're going to be seeing the Maru switch from the Buck, which is interesting. We do get the Buck instead of the Habana, since Buck also does have heart breach devices just for those hatches. But yeah, the Maru with a shotgun, we could be seeing a potential rush Inferno.
I I would doubt it. I think the Amaru would be likely to go up inside of office for the repel. I can in fact see that they're already standing over there, maybe looking for that option. They'll drone it out first and foremost before going up there. Maybe they will. They'll stick over to Hall instead. It's a lot of options, but like you said, it is a top-down approach. We are seeing the Finra getting brought out because of that, and highlighted since Sledge is banned, you have to work elsewhere. The Buck can get the job done, and the Breaching Grounds can do the exact same thing. And you're kind of necessitated to bring out the Ash because Nook's been taken off the board. There's a huge lack of nades for TT9 here on the Assault. They have to bring Iana for the Gemini Replicator for the early information, kind of that entry role, and the nades in the back pocket. They don't have anything else they can really follow suit behind. It's going to be a matter of just dumping out flashes. And speaking of those flashes, it's not even a matter of that anymore. It's the Hard Breach that was in the back pocket. They were bringing that instead of the Hibana, and guess who gets taken down first? Sionski, no Hard Breach available for TT9. June finding another pickup onto Kanto, but it goes back the other way nearly instantly, putting us into a 3v3. TT9 already into the map. You have the Amaru Garrook, might as well use it. Plaz is in a bit of a tight spot, but we've seen them already get a kill here and there. 2 on the board, and they'll find another one as they drop down into open. Beautiful hatch play. No chance for TT9 there.
Yeah, not letting go without a fight. He managed to pick off one before just backing off, and a very nice attempt. Not only attempt, but execution of the pick. Now, I mean, not only does he secure man advantage, he also manages to get taken. Actually, his teammate getting traded out later. Azor getting one onto Officer, as of course now it's going to be back to a 2v2 situation. With the Brava and the Ash right now, they're going to be in a very much more of a situation, to be said the least. Now, we still have the Fenrir on the line, which could be proving quite troublesome, as, I mean, Kendrew is just forced to be outside the site window. Now, yeah, Vertical is starting to slowly come out, which for Ash most definitely would be the way to go about. Now, you have the time ticking, you have less than a minute, and you're going to have to produce something. You don't have much drones as the attackers, so what now? I mean, the Oryx and the Fenrir are still on site. They can pretty much camp the diffuser, as it seems like it hasn't even been picked up, and it's soon about to get pretty much just as heated as it possibly can.
Skitty's walking around inside staff, working more towards that kitchen side of the room. Knows a player sitting over there towards that rep side and is just trying to deal with that pressure very quickly. Tinder is forced to take a couple steps back. Wouldn't be surprised to see them try to go in through mail window instead, or printer window instead.
Attackers,
you do see the pressure is boiling up. Laz will be here on the flank, watching doorway leading over. The player has been spotted, and Azur cannot survive the onslaught of fire. The same thing's gonna be said for Kindrel, as they will cleanly close out the final few frags. Skitty picking up the last here. And is it just another play for Heroic where they get first picks, they go refrag for refrag, they have the advantage right off the rip, and then they can just play the long con game plan of saying, hey, we're on the defense, we can pick where we lie, and we can also swing you unexpectedly, get that peak as advantage for these initial picks up towards the end. And TT9 just didn't have an answer for it. Not enough intel. Jones weren't put in a good spot, and Heroic just find their blind spots and poke it.
Yeah, most definitely they were kind of in a tight situation right there and then there. As of course, you can't really know where the enemies are exactly with the amount of rotations and movement you have, especially the Fenrir just going out into the side of Archives, shooting down one of the 2 players remaining, and of course Kendrew being forced to jump into sight. And with that, I mean, it was the Oryx prepared just to take him down any second. He was just waiting for the audio, and there it was. Now Harold getting 2 in a row is looking very good. I mean, they've been holding up quite strongly. Their role game, their time wasted, just in general how they've been doing, as TT9 has been getting shut out just a bit more than it has been before. Now, we're going upstairs, and you know, we don't see a castle, which we're not having a sledge. I would personally take advantage, but yet again, this is probably a lot higher than T4, which castle is common on.
Attackers are heading out.
We are still seeing the zombie. We do see a new face, which would be Legion, which I'm actually quite surprised to see how could be used maybe in a bit more of aggressive tone. You know, you see here the Legion Goo prompt you go in very aggressively, or you just kind of force them to push back, waste a bit of time along with it, and, you know, just give yourself some space.
Like I said, no castle barricades, and I think that's a likely smart decision from Heroic, realizing, hey, if we know we banned the Nook and Sledge is no longer on the board, it's likely that they're going to bring the Ash over and over again. They're going to have to do the Gianna. Everybody brings Gianna. That is the case. They're going to bring something else, and I think that pocket pick there was going to be Zofia from TT9, and that is the case. Therefore, you have the impact from your lifeline util. You also have the breaching rounds. Castle barricades are going to be short-lived. At least with the Sledge, they've got to get close to it to actually breach it down with the hammer or waste a nade to get the job job done. Speaking of nades, Azar sends a very nice nade all the way up towards Skitty. They barely managed to be outside of its range. They take no damage in the process, but it was quite a close call for them. And they're likely going to go ahead and take a couple steps back, meandering to a safer corner, because that one has obviously been snuffed out by TT9. Proper drone work gets the job done at the end of the day, but the nade just slightly overcooked and it detonates a bit too soon. And speaking of detonating a bit early, a nitro cell's tossed fairly quickly by Joom, and it finds a target. The Ash of Kanto not able to survive, and this has been a problem for the side of TT9. You need your entry to be there. Now you're going to rely on Azar, and on top of it, your information for util of Kendra, your IQ, dusted alongside Azar once again. A 5v2 seems insurmountable, but Nars is going to get the job done, at least for one, to try to climb themselves back into this fight.
Not allowing it to be a flaw, as Joom will be getting taken out. A bit of greed coming out, wanting to get those window kills. It's going to be Nors with another one for himself, as Leonski, along with the Zofia right now, are going to be a 2-3-4 situation. Very hard, especially with, of course, the Zamisol play. We do have some Legion Goose ready to, you know, kind of hinder these attackers in their ways. Barbed wire still not taken out, so that's going to be just in general audio intel. They pretty much know where the remaining two players are from. Not only Zofia being a bit aggressive on the window, shots are coming out. That's going to be Leonski getting taken out by Cream, aka I do believe that's Kayax. Nor's going in, full all or nothing. The pistol is out. Red dot on it. He gets one, but does not get the second, as it's going to be Heroic, aka Skitty, getting the final kill. And yeah, another round going to Heroic, making it a 3-0. Not too bad. Not only making it pretty much an equal before the role swap round, it's gonna be looking real good. I mean, if they can continue up this to a 4-2 or a 5-1 score before the role swap, it would be looking not only bad for the mental of TT9, but also just in general looking better for this match to be getting over with quicker.
Of all things, the one objective TT9 have seemingly been able to key in on the best, and maybe it's just first round jitters from Heroic, was the basement site. Typically the best objective here on this map of Bank. Heroic seemingly had a very tumultuous start. Two players lost right off the rip. They get one back, they lose a third, and they have to come back into a huge deficit when they eventually managed to, you know, get the victory in the end, but it was still a close call that came down to the 1v1, unlike the round prior where it ended in a 2v2. I don't think Heroic's going to struggle the same way. I do genuinely believe that it is first round jitters, and they have seemingly figured out TT9's strategy. They found where they like to, you know, dock their boat, and they have since drilled holes within it and caused them to unfortunately be drowning in the last few rounds. They've not been comfortable. They are doggy paddling their way out of this, and it is short-lived success. You tire out quickly if you're not doing an actual swimming stroke, and TT9 are gasping for air. A 3-0 start. For a map like Bank, it's whatever, but at the rate it's going, Heroic are just going to take this half in a very dominant fashion since they've already guaranteed an even position. They've changed their entire attacking setup here for TT9. They did not like what they had previously. Obviously, did not work out for them very well. They'll go for the Ash and the Ionic for the entry potential, the Capital for the asphyxiation bolts and fire, and then they have the Rotero Jones to create space over towards security. That seemingly has worked at least to a bit. They saw one early, they forced them back, and on top of that, they even find a nade kill. Nades have been very effective for TT9 because they gather information very well, and they send out the nades unbeknownst to the defenders. And more times than not, unlike last round, they do find a pick off of the back of it, and it is Blaz this time around.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested in seeing Zero, the jack of all trades. You could call him an operator with hard breaches, soft breaches, and of course, Intel all in one with a good gun just combined. It would be a very deadly operator to go up against, but Heroic totally taking some damage, getting himself. Norris gets spotted, does get a bit just tickled from the gun, almost getting headshot, his head taken off just quite nearly by Joom, as right now open area is being secured quite tightly. I mean, they have their zombie gates. We do have one nade and pretty much ad charges, along with the floor drones being run out from the side of the attackers, as Officer right now upstairs could be going in for a challenge on to Leonski, but he doesn't have too much intel or where his whereabouts could be. Now, we have 1 minute and 30 on the clock. We're looking quite good on time. I mean, they're getting close to the execute, but they need to clear out these cooler players upstairs. Heroic gets taken out by Kentru, making it a 5v3. TT9 getting closer to their first round, as right now, got another run coming out from Azar. Cream gets taken out, aka Kayaks in the smoke, will be out of the match. And now, you know, Inferno, I'm going to be honest, this is looking really bad.
Yeah, Heroic just have spread themselves too thin. Like a piece of paper that gets a bit too damp, you tear too quickly after the fact. The damage has been done, and now it's left up to Officer to attempt to save the day. One kill's gone their way, a player over towards open, but they have a little bit of an issue when it comes to the droppage of square. They'll go down hatch and move over towards security. Officers now left all by their lonesome on the first floor as TT9 will flip this round up on its head as the attack quickly become the defense as they set up here for the post plant. Leonski sticking that diffuser down. And now it's up to an all-you-can-eat buffet for the player of Officer. Will they fill up too fast or will they find themselves still craving more? They've got 3 players they can gobble up quickly, and that's kind of the issue. Watching in hatch. Where can you drop from? Where are the players lying in wait? Azur's got a beautiful angle sitting inside lobby. Knows that hatch is easily droppable for Officer. Doesn't seem to be any player consistently watching the drop here. In fact, there is. There's Norris just waiting for the opportunity. He hears the noise, and there it is. Great flick to the head of Officer. And a gorgeous play here from TT9 to make sure, hey, we're done losing rounds. We were close on basement once. Let's not make it a close game. Let's dominate this one.
Yeah, you got to show the best side what you can do with it. As of course, in the end, it was a bit of a wide time wastage from the side of the Jaeger. In the end, didn't manage to drop the hatch, got taken out by Norris. And with that, it's going to be the first round for the side of TT9. Not looking too bad, as, I mean, the score is still there. It's still 3-1. There's still a 2-round a 2-round advantage in general. And we're going to be heading into open area where it was most definitely a lot harder towards the end for the side of TT9. They got shut down. I mean, the plays from Blast just dropping into hatch, managing to get the buck, and then continuing on with the rotation to Archives, getting another one as, of course, the last 2 players were pretty much just forced to go guns blazing into sight, running in, jumping in through the windows, running in directly on in front of the door. It was not much of an option, so let's try and maybe see what else can be brought up. Now, we will be seeing an interesting operator for this. I mean, it's going to be the Pulse, most definitely could be coming out a bit of a different result. We do have another C4 from the side of June, so some verticality or anti-verticality from the side of defense will be expected, as I am seeing a Dokkaebi and a Thatcher, so we could be expecting some main breaches from the side of Archives and just an overall push on the side of Lobby.
A slow and steady assault's typically the idea a lot of teams like to take with a map like Bank. Your operator selection's fairly indicative of that as well here for the side of TT9, though they do have, I would say, opted away from the IQ strategy they pulled out a couple rounds prior. I think that's, for a lot of teams, the right idea for clearing out top floor, but it's just an extension out from Heroic, so they don't necessarily have to worry about it just yet. They're not playing as aggressive as an Amaru pick once you get up to that top floor as well. That was used on the 3rd floor objective. It should be more feasible here, which is why I'm a little bit shocked TT9 wouldn't opt to bring it out again, because the floor is going to have less players on that extension, on that row. They're still gonna have to worry about Heroic, aka Skitty, who's lying over there in top hall. They do have Officers sitting over inside alone, which is a very aggressive angle that I'm honestly amazed TT9 did not drone out early. And nets them a kill there onto Azur. Kindrew felled by Joom, and Joom does fall after the fact. It's still an even pickup until Heroic is finally dealt with. So your heaviest extensions go 1-for-1 on a trade, and TT9 will equalize things to a 3-on-3 fight. And unfortunately, despite all that time wasting right off the rip from Heroic, TT9 are still no closer to this objective, as they've only taken control of Square and are still taking firefights over there towards Office.
Yeah, TT9 not liking their 2 players getting taken out so quickly will be clapping back with a double kill of their own. As, of course, I mean, we're still progressing as attackers. They still need to take out Square. They're not sure how many roamers could be around. They do have to be cautious. And like you said, gotta go slow about things before mistakes can happen. Officer, yet again, being a bit cheeky on very close to the attackers, could be coming in for a bit of a flank. As, yeah, we also have the rotation we've seen previously coming in a bit more clutch. Could be coming more clutch now. Now, you know, they haven't spotted Officer yet, just necessarily, so this is going to be a very deadly situation. They do have some sort of clue or some sort of sense as he will be getting taken out by Cantum again at 3v2. TT9 looking better. Norris gets taken out by Cream, aka Kayaks, as Pulse is left on the verge of his life. Now, Blast coming in with a flank, does notice a player in Archives, takes him out. That's going to be Kanto out of the match. A 1v1 now looking as Leoski manages it up, and the shot comes out. Blast does not take it, as Leonski will be looking good on HP. He is on site, he has the diffuser, goes for the plant behind the reinforced wall, which makes him a lot more secure. Sticks it, not sticking it actually, fully going in for the bait, and the SMG-12 out. Will be finishing the job, making it a 3-2 score.
Very great play. TT9 surviving a very tumultuous round. Heroic had a very early start, but unfortunately those players were just playing in highly contested positions, a bit too far from home, and unfortunately could not drive themselves back in time. TT9 going 2 for 2 on those early trades was perfect when it came to later stages, as they started to pick apart Heroic very well. Did have a bit of a tough fight to force those extending players back through hatches. But once they were to drop, TT9 had cut off angles. They weren't aware of Blaz, which was an issue. It has been an issue in previous rounds as well. But they're starting to key in on this. If they get it to a 1v1, then it's a matter of just taking the fight where you need to, hitting the damage at range. Blaz got a little bit unlucky there with the aggressive screen from Leonski initially inside towards kitchen and dining. They had to worry about the shots to the wall. They had to rotate around. You bait out the diffuser plants and just force them to come to you, where you're going to stand right back up and take those shots and strike. I think that's a very good play. I think that's a very good round for TT9, showing that, hey guys, we can do it not just on the basement. We have other objectives we can actually win it out on. And now we're looking at the very big possibility that this half ends 3-3 if Heroic cannot find themselves back into a comfortable spot where they can find a round win. If you start 3-0, you expect it to at least continue to some degree, but it has been a huge, I would say, drought of silence from Heroic, who just haven't had an answer for TT9's early pickups, for refrags, or their great secure clutch plays when it comes to the final few moments.
Yeah, I mean, TT9 were securing or badly having an issue with just kind of getting the refrags or open picks for themselves, as Heroic was fully taking advantage of that and the dents in their mistakes, as now it seems to have been turning around a bit. The tables have turned as we see another nade coming in. This could be pretty big. Azure throws it, will not be getting it. Yes, he does! What a nade, yeeting it. Cole, you know, put him in the NBA for all weekend as the C4 comes out. June with one of his own. Oh my goodness, you know, throwing nades. What about throwing 5 pounds of explosives as he gets one? The second one comes in from Norse, getting Blaz a 3v3, as now it's just getting closer. I mean, these are the refrags we've been talking about. June returning the fire out to Kendrew and getting taken out the same second he does the run out. These are the refrags we've been needing from TT9 in the previous first 3 rounds, and now we're getting them, and oh my goodness, am I starting to just sweat from talking.
I think this is an interesting idea from Heroic. They realize that TT9 likes rappelling up over towards the A bomb chassis. They don't want to deal with that pressure in window. And the best way to deal with that pressure is to let them sit there and just don't give them any space. The problem lies when it comes elsewhere. TT9 needed to step in towards open. We see Norris has in fact rotated that way. They need to take control of the top hall to actually have that pincer work in towards window, forcing them to have a less man count, aka down to the last 2, force them to take a couple steps back, and it puts TT9 in a very nice spot where they can reevaluate their push, where Noars just sprays down 2 in quick succession, 1 by desk, 1 just trying to play around the wall leading from stock and office. You get the kill, it's over and done. That is TT9 having a 3-round comeback to make this half go 3-3 in an even split.
Oh, he was holding one angle, switched over to the other, and managed to clutch up the 3rd round for them, giving them a nice 3-3 score, and a bit of equal. Before heading to the roll swap, as now it's going to be a bit different. Now, Inferno, I'm going to need your honest opinion on this. You know, in T4, Bank is very rare here. It's either Oregon, Clubhouse, or Villa mostly. Now, what would you prefer here? Would you say this is a bit more attacker or defender side of it?
Putting something on me here. I would say, at least for Talent League, it's a very defender-sided map. But I think it's also just purely because some of the top teams are going to be opting for this map, and some of the lower teams. T4 specific teams, even T3 teams, don't really like Bank. They're going to pick up some of the more try and true maps. Like you said, they're going to go to Oregon. They're going to go to Villa. They're going to go to Cafe. They're going to go to Clubhouse. They're going to get maps that they know well enough that even they could put up a fight against some of the Team 1 talents out there. At least that's the case in the ENA scene. I don't know how true that necessarily is for EU, but I would expect it to be the same level with the way that talent happens to go across the scene.
Attackers are moving out to locate
For
a bomb.
Heroic, they played Bank against Make Your Destiny previously. They really did like this map, though they did have a couple tough rounds. Bank is a map that they're comfortable with. I expect them to pick it most times. In a BO3, expected to actually just make it all the way through. They did like it a lot as well with the Game Without Borders. But it is a very wonky map. Statistically speaking, we've had 26 rounds in the Talent League, and 16 have gone to the defense, so I would give it to the defense. But Heroic only managed to go even at defense, which is a bad look. If that is the case and Heroic are expecting this to be a defender-sided map, giving up arguably 2 of those rounds that could have and maybe should have gone their way for TT9's victories could be dire for them if TT9 just managed to make this their defensive half and take the statistical advantage on the defensive side and just come out victorious.
Yeah, most definitely. All right. you know, maybe it's going to be a bit of a caster curse coming in, and now it's going to be all going to the attackers. Let's hope not. But we still have a match to see now. It is pretty much sorted. I mean, there is time wasted, yes, but the no kills have been just dropped. As for now, we still have the zombie and a lot of C4s, pretty much just overall a lot of gadgets on the side of the attack and defense. So, I mean, right now as it's getting closer, it's all going to start just dropping down. Call it a rain of utility all at once. I mean, the hatches are getting open. One gets spotted, but Doom won't be able to get him. Main gets pushed pretty aggressively, you could say, as the defenders have been pretty much pushed back to site. You know, they got to turtle a bit more, and I'm expecting a bit more aggression from the side of TT9. We already see Leonski getting ready for it. I mean, people are running below hatches. This could be turning upside down any second. As I mean, Heroic is taking it a bit slowly. You know, they have hatches open. They still have a minute left, which is enough to kind of get closer to the site. Actually, Cream right now being pretty much kind of confident to say that someone's waiting for him at the top. Maybe he was droned out earlier. Leonski getting ready as well. This could be a fight. The Jaeger ADS does get spotted. Two of them. Flash is coming out. A 5v3. Kendra and Kanto getting two for themselves. And that's going to be Smoke. Pretty confident. You know, he's pretty fine. Seeming very healthy and nice on those blue stairs.
TT9 just taking great advantage of the player up top of Kinju and another player down below inside security in through hatch. The two players that were pressuring your blue stairs highlighted player is gone. That's exactly what you need for TT9. They understand the status quo. They need to keep blue stairs locked down for as long as possible because it's the second stage of progression coming up for Heroic. And Heroic losing that foothold have essentially lost all impact here in this round. They have to change the strategy up at the whole entire beginning point. And they just don't have the man count to get that job done because they'd already lost that first blood previously. TT9 survived the onslaught from Heroic. We can even hardly call it that. Just a very dominant round from TT9. I would dare say the most dominant round we've seen so far here in this map. It's hard to give any highlights towards Heroic, who, despite having a solid stance, like I said, Flash is trying to burn those IDSs, deal with that blue stairs player. It may have just been better to go for the crouch peek because they were aiming high and mighty for the headshot kill. You would have at least had a drop on them if you were going around that corner crouch, but they wanted to burn the ADSs. They felt it needed, and ultimately they got burned to the end instead.
Oh yeah, I mean, they were focusing a bit too much on that smoke, you could say, as of course, that kind of led to, of course, the flank coming out. And with that, I mean, it was a bit tough to say, but you do want to get rid of that player without any type of, you could say, without any type of your own players getting lost. You know, challenging the smoke up close, he does have a strong secondary, and even with a shotgun, he would have been quite a deadly one to go up against. You know, using your utility slowly to take him out without any repercussions would have been the way to go. But even then, you know, you gave the defenders or the opposing team the time to flank. You gave them time to communicate, and with that, that's where the double kill came in. I mean, even triple, you could consider it. 3 did get taken out, and like you said, that was a very dominant team. The Maru coming in with a grappling hook. All her Spider-Man shots are being fired. She doesn't necessarily get taken out, but the SMG-11 in hand will be quite a deadly weapon to carry, as she does get taken out. Not expecting Kendru by long desk, and that's going to be an early pick for the side of TT9, getting the second. No one expects it, as Heroic will be off the board, and that's a Dokkaebi as well, a very good pick. Not only for utility, but just in general, those EMPs could be coming in handy, as we see Ying will be having a much tougher of a time. Actually, no, she won't. We don't have a Kate. There's going to be no problem with opening those hatches.
Keep in mind, TT9 were the team, if I recollect correctly, that actually picked this map. So despite the fact that Heroic have played this before and some of you do like the map, TT9 feel they're even better, and they are definitely showcasing that here. 2 kills right out the rip. Yeah, Blast overextends. You kind of expect it with the Garu going in that quickly. Heroic's loss, aka Skitties, was a little bit shocking to say that TT9 were able to pick that one up so cleanly. But no matter what it is, the damage has been done. Heroic are now left with only 3 players to move forward with. They have an entry. They have Officer to try to give them some leeway. Maybe would expect Officer not to be joining themselves in, to have a teammate to follow suit. Maybe that was the role of Heroic or Blast, who have since been, you know, removed from the equation. But Officer has highlighted there is at least 1 player over on the top of kitchen table. Leonski had a beautiful flank and has seemingly just ran away from it. Did not like the idea. Maybe worried that there was a claymore or something in hand. In fact, there is not. It would have been a clean angle to swing from the bottom of blue stairs. But it doesn't seem to matter. Joom will deal with Kanto, and you have to rotate back the other way. It's not going to matter for Kindru. There goes your last remaining LOL gamer of Cream / Heroic / Clean, aka Kayak, right there at the end. It's 4v2, and for TT9, I don't know what more you can ask for. They are getting kills galore, and Heroic just quite literally can only get the drop on them if it's just around a corner, and there's just not enough of that here. It's a bad showcase from Heroic.
Yeah, most definitely. Noars does deny the ace from the side of Kendrew, but he has gotten himself 3 kills, which should be enough just to finish Officer maybe in the end. And there it is, a quad kill for himself, yoinking that 4th player under his ruck. As of course, we're going to be seeing another round for TT9. Now making it a 5-3 score, which is surprising. Meaning I do believe TT9 just won 5 rounds in a row and are looking very strong. I mean, with the early kills and kind of taking on that, I wouldn't necessarily call it cockiness, but underestimation from Heroic. I mean, they went Amaru in. I mean, the Amaru did get shot out. She did get expected a bit on the side of Square, but that doesn't matter. Long dash, she got the Amaru, aka, or the Azami, aka Kendrew, he got 1. He got the second Pika window again. That was almost it. I mean, these only picks do matter, especially when they're on operators such as Dokubi out of all. I mean, okay, the Amaru isn't necessarily that utility-based because she's all guns.
Bomb
She has
located
the
by
strength,
attackers.
power, and frag through, but the Dokubi, she has the EMP impact. She has the calls, which pretty much reveal roamers, not allowing them to move forward and push you as easily, and maybe even helping you with some verticality, especially if you're playing a character such as Fuse, Box, Sledge, any type of thing like that, even Salvage's hand could be a bit helpful. Yeah, with that much utility on your hand and that much power, or just when it comes to sound intel, it could be a very good pick, and it very much was. Now we're going to be seeing also some new operators coming, and that's going to be Blackbeard and Osa, which, you know what, Osa, we don't see her much, and I do believe she has the potential for it. And talking about potential, Norris is going to be taking the one from MPX, taking out Cream, the Habana player yet again. Doesn't seem like hard pitches are going to be in play, and I'm still really interested in how this Blackbeard play is going to work out.
You're just relying on it for window repel. Bank tends to be a map where windows are fairly strong. Mostly when it comes to the office side, you're not going to repel nearly anywhere else. Occasionally a run out comes out. We saw that from Heroic. It did eventually end with them losing their life immediately after the fact. It's very dangerous to make a run out here on this map because of that. But it doesn't mean it can't happen. You don't necessarily have to make a full run out with it either. Nowhere's just highlight and showcase that here you sit over there towards desk and you've got a perfect angle. That's why it's made that way. Ubisoft at least made this map very easy to swing out that way. Unlike some of the newer maps we have maybe coming into the map pool, and by then I'll be retiring, thank goodness. I do not want to have to deal with those maps. They give me a absolute headache. But unfortunately, it's likely to come through. It is a 4v2. Heroic are in a very bad spot once again. Who else but Heroic? As TT9's Nars just cut down every approach they had. You lose a Blackbeard. The Blackbeard shield only works head on, and they shot you in the rear. They shot you from the side. The shield doesn't go there. Why go for the repel if it didn't work for TT9? It's not going to work for you. You can't even have control for the pencil. You set nobody over there towards stock. You did not swing anybody through open door. You were too scared to go on outside balcony, and you didn't even put a player up on skylight to work with. You too many players on the outside northern repel to work with. Don't put your whole man count on one side and rely on it as the go-to aspect. It's going to fall short every single time, and that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, most definitely Leoski grabbing another one as Azar will be there to finish it off. And oh, Inferno, it's 6-3. It's match point. This is looking bad. And you mentioned this was a pick from TT9. This is kind of them showing, yeah, we're dominant on this map. You guys may have had a bit of a performance through your overall history, but we got this map in the back of our pocket, knowing it just like the back of our hand. As of course, match point. This is for TT9. They're looking very good. And after this, I do believe we have Chalet as well, so that could be looking like a very interesting one to go through. But going a bit back on that Blackbeard, you mentioned, you know, he got shot out. Then the challenge came in from Osa, which was even worse. I mean, he also got taken out, and only then, when it was a 5v2 situation, I believe, with the Habana, Osa, and Blackbeard out, did they manage to take out the Warden, aka Norse, and that would put him into a 4v2. It's just impossible. We have the Ying, yeah, but the Warden is taken out, but it's not like the Ying just completely ignores the shields, the barbed wire, the lines of sight, and everything all together. It has strong flashes, but it's not completely immune, you know? So, yeah.
10 seconds left.
Pretty much, TT9 looking very dominant on their own map. Could be looking a bit better for the side of Heroic. I mean, it could be looking a lot stronger on Chalet for themselves.
Is to locate a bomb,
but yet again, TT9 are still putting up a good fight, even after the first 3 rounds that were kind of looking a bit more weak.
maybe we phrase it as they leave a lot to be desired. Gotta sometimes find nice terms for it, even if there's not much that's nice to say. As everyone's mother Simula said when we were young, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. Usually immediately after you get in trouble for something. Heroic are getting in trouble here, so maybe it's good time to say it. They have let 6 rounds in a row fall in TT9's favor. And for a map and a game that requires 7 only to win everything out, you can give it up in Valorant and CSGO. You can't give it up in R6. It is a totally different beast. That's a big problem. Anto finding the first pickup here. Blast dusted, no Inox scanner to work with. The buck swings back around the corner. Skeleton keys down Azure. A good way to get a refrag back, but TT9 are still players aplenty on this first floor, willing to roam around. The Caveira selected for TT9 is an interesting idea. Modestly shocked not to see Noor is out there as well, roaming around. They picked the Warden last round because of the MPX. They wanted the range of the weapon. Usually you put a Warden on site, play for smokes, play for flashes, and just try to use the util correctly. They played the Warden purely for the weapon, so they could get the players on the rappel that they expected to happen, and Heroic fell right into the loving hands, where TT9 then strangled them, which is not so kind, let's be frank.
Yeah, let's be frank indeed. I mean, why need a nuke to sneak into open area when you have a Canadian with a skeleton team to do it instead? Azami will be getting taken out, and that's a very good pick. Yet again, Azor will be pretty much letting the attackers with that pick kind of take over pretty much first floor. We still do have the Caveira, which you mentioned, which not only isn't common, but could be coming in actually interesting, especially if there will be an interrogation inside. And yes, there is! Oh, but Heroic will be leaving. Still gets the interrogation. I mean, there's still sight. Ying wishing one of her Candelas, actually 2, but the shotgun comes out. Ooh, what a double kill! And Kendra not be letting that slide by so easily. I am speechless. Oh my goodness.
The old casual strat of leaving before the interrogation, but they did change it a while ago, Heroic. That if they start the interrogation and you leave, the interrogation will finish. You played into their hands. They were done interrogating faster than ever. That's the new Caveira buff. You just DC the enemy and your interrogation goes off lickety split. Now Heroic are just going to be a man down for now, even worse than they were previously. There goes Officer, and finally June will fall as well. Nowhere's another big round for them, not needing to get the players in the rappel, just get the job done straight up as they attempt to drop into sight. What are you gonna do? Apparently absolutely nothing. This was a horrendous last few rounds for Heroic. And it's not even just a matter of the last few, it was just the last 7. That's not a few, that's the whole stinking game here. Over.
That is the entire game they just gave up to them. After those 0-3-0, it fell down so dearly. As not only did it fall down bad, it fell down to the point where a player had to leave to not get interrogated. The Yink Candelas came in too, but the shotgun was just too strong. The spaz coming out, and of course, you know, you could call it very strong from the side of TT9, and Bank being very strong in general. For them, they managed to get themselves the first round, or first match, should I say. With that, we're going to be heading soon over to the match number 2, which is going to be Chalet, and that is Heroic's pick, so we could be seeing, you know, maybe less leaving of players and a bit more of sticking together, as I think we should take it to a bit of a break.
Yeah, actually, we're sending it over to the host. Yeah, the host. We got a lot to break down. That was a map that we didn't have much to say. They're going to have a lot more. Let's send it to them instead.
All right.
Bob, I know you want to get to the break as quick as possible after the interrogation. It was a pretty hot game, but unfortunately, we still have to do a little bit of analysis behind the scenes. Me and obviously our very, very lovely analyst reappearance here, who should be joining me very shortly, have been looking through the game. And what a game it was, ladies and gentlemen, because it was 7 in a row. What else can you say? It was 7 in a row. You know, Heroic, they were on cruise control, 3-0 up, and then they just lost 7, lost 7 in a row. Reappearance. What happened, man? Talk me through it. What happened?
I mean, I'm gonna give you my first thoughts. I had Heroic down for this map, but of course we have to consider it's TT9's map. And I did say right before we went into the game, do not underestimate TT9. I think that this is a fairly even matchup. And I noticed that in round 1, my very first impression was that, oh, TT9 looked pretty good here. Their very first attack was pretty damn good on that basement, and they showed it when they cleaned it up on the second time around after it unlocked again. Heroic went back there, and that's when they finally won their first round, which ended up being 7 in a row. And that very first basement attack just showed me that TT9 were structured in their take, and they knew how to counter Heroic on certain steps. And the only reason that they lost that was because Joom got a 3K, and Joom was able to win out a 1v1 with almost no time on the clock. And so if one gunfight would have gone the other way, we would have seen TT9 open up with a round. Instead, it was Heroic who, off the back of an individual performance from Joom, just playing really well in that first round, and throughout the rest of the match, I think Joom has played very well by far. I think the best player on Heroic for this game. But his performance alone does not hold up for the entire team because they, as you said, they kind of went into cruise control. They started going on a rotation and they won their entire defensive rotation. But then TT9 started countering it, and then they went on to their own defense, and they started getting all of the momentum that they needed, and Kendrew started warming into the game. I think for their defense, for TT9's defense, that's Kendrew was the big important factor in finding opening kills and finding important trades, finding important connections onto players that really need to be made. And so TT9 just, I think, outclassed Heroic here with 7 in a row.
I mean, I like that you pointed out Kendra because I noticed his stats, going into the 3-3, side swap. He was 2-6, not having the best of games. And I think he ended that game, 11-7, 11-8, something like that. It was absolutely an insane comeback from him. He showed his worth on defense, let's just say. But that's enough of the game. Let's just go for a few of the rounds here of Cosby appearance. I mean, there's probably a few rounds you want to highlight because you said TT9, they've been playing really well. They've been countering Heroic, especially. And I think there's a few rounds I think you want to show that maybe can emphasize it a little bit more.
Yeah, there's quite a few rounds that we can go through. I mean, what clip are we looking at right now? I can't tell.
We are looking at the wait, I'm unsure. I think this is the 1v1 that Leonski did end up winning. So
Oh yes, okay. So that first clip was okay, but we're looking at round 6 right now. Round 6 was Azernating Heroic. All right, that was Noah getting a 1v2 ultimately. So we saw the run out here. That's something I wanted to mention for round 6. On the run out, I think it was I don't know which player it was, but it was certainly somebody on the side of Heroic just going for a jump out. Didn't really work out. But I appreciate the aggression coming through. Ultimately, we saw that didn't really work out for them. So just I'm not really sure. Some misplaced aggression coming through from Heroic, and that run out I think is the pinnacle of it. As we're seeing the interrogation right now in the clips, which was I think the ultimate nail in the coffin for that entire matchup because it showed the flaws of Heroic playing more individually. It showed the punishment that TT9 were able to bring on the opposing end, and I mean that disconnect just kind of shows. I'm done with this. Let's go to the next map. Heroic kind of just already writing that game off. It's like okay, next one.
I really like how you pointed out because that's while I was watching that game, that's exactly what I thought. That TT9 were playing like a more completed Veloid machine, while Heroic were just relying more on solo aggression, hero plays. Because you pointed out Yume on the first few rounds where he was playing really good, but as soon as he starts falling off a little bit or not having the best of rounds, the rest of the team isn't really there to back him up. The rest of the team having the best of games. Obviously, I think Blaz lost a 1v1 against Leonski. We saw the clip earlier. And that can literally go in a 50-50 different way, and then you're looking at a different game. But I still think even if, they lost that round, TT9, I mean, and they were down 4-2, they still probably would have ended up winning the game because they've just been so solid on the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I want to point out Blaz was the opening death on, I think, 3 different occasions, if I counted correctly. And the majority of the opening picks went, I mean, a majority of the picks went into TT9's favor. So TT9 got the opening pick in 8 out of the 10 rounds. So Heroic got 2 opening picks. Of course, not all of those went untraded. Heroic were very well on their trading game. So whenever TT9 did get opening picks, it would usually be traded, but more often than not, we would actually see TT9 get 2 opening picks or an opening pick with a nade that would go untraded. Azer's nades in the beginning of the rounds have been very, very impactful on TT9's attacks and getting them some of the rounds because they really just open up the round wide. They get rid of a player, they get rid of some pressure, and they allow TT9 to just go through the map calmly while Heroic have to struggle and cover, all ends so that there's no avenue left open for TT9 to breach into. And I think that was the big deciding factor. It's that TT9 were able to find opening picks, able to counter Heroic where they found them. And that's a little bit down to gunfights, but I think that's a lot down to positioning. And TT9 were the better team in openings in that. And the conversion rate is fairly high. I think Heroic lost one of the rounds that they had the opening pick, so despite only getting the opening pick twice. Even then, they only won it once. And TT9 at the very beginning, the very first 2 rounds, they lost. Despite having the opening pick. So even when they're losing, they're still getting the opening pick. They're still getting, the motions on attack through. And so this is showing that TT9 are able to recompose even when they are struggling. And so I cannot repeat it enough. 7 rounds in a row is an absolute
7
statement.
in a row.
Yeah, going on Chalet, it's going to be Heroic's map pick, so I think we'll see a little bit of a different game. I don't think that we can see TT9 continue on a rampage because I think that Heroic were kind of expecting to go into this map with a scoreline like this in mind. Of course, not 7 in a row, but certainly, I mean, TT9 picked their map well, and they won it. So now we move on to map 2. We'll see if Heroic can fight back, and we might end up seeing a decider. I think a decider at the moment looks very likely between those two.
I mean, that's all very lovely, but I think we're going to go into a little bit of a break soon. Like you said, the next map is going to be Chalet. TT9 did manage to win their map pick 7-3 with a dominant 7-0 comeback victory onto Bank. That brings us on to our second map, Chalet. We'll be back very soon. On to a quick break.